So you just downloaded GTA 4, you watched an annoying YouTuber teach you how to fix the PC port, you then installed a vehicle pack that you always wanted to use. You start the game ready to experience GTA 4 at its best, with those new high quality vehicles. Only for... there's taxis everywhere. Not a single normal vehicle has spawned other than taxis. Nico is going wild. What the is going on? You Google a solution. A mix of outdated and inconsistent information with no obvious fix in sight. You give up and uninstall the game. So what is actually going on? Why are taxis the only vehicle spawning, and how do you fix this issue? Before we begin, I'd just like to mention if you enjoy technical and high quality GTA videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel, as it really helps. You can also support me on Patreon, which allows me to make more videos like this. So to understand the taxi bug, you need to know how vehicles spawn in GTA 4. But before we cover that, you need to learn about the vehicle budget. In GTA 4, when a vehicle spawns, the size of the vehicle's model and texture is added to the vehicle population budget. The vehicle budget is 40 megabytes by default. So just a quick example, when the game requests a Sultan to spawn in traffic, the model for the vehicle is 485 kilobytes and the texture for the vehicle is 120 kilobytes. Combine them and add that to the budget, which would be 0.6 megabytes out of 40 megabytes. If the game requests a Sabre GT to spawn, the size of the model and texture for the Sabre GT gets added to the vehicle budget. So the vehicle budget then becomes 1.1 megabytes out of 40 megabytes, with both the Sultan and Sabre GT added to it. A vehicle only gets added to the budget once. So if another Sabre GT spawns, nothing will be added to the budget. Now that you know about the vehicle budget, let's cover how vehicles spawn as traffic in GTA 4, and it starts with pedestrians. Pedestrians in GTA 4 are organised into different pedestrian groups in the pedestrian group file, and these groups are assigned a chance of spawning in different areas of the map in the population cycle file. Pedestrian groups and their spawns are pretty varied. For example, the Korean gang pedestrian group can only spawn in Alderney City. The Bronx population group can spawn in several different areas of the map, including Boulevard and Fortside. Okay, we'll stop with the sacks. Some population groups can spawn more in one area than another. The Jersey population group, for example, spawns in Leftwood at a spawn density of 100, which is the max. But that pedestrian group also spawns in Bircham at a spawn density of 70. Anyway, I think you get the idea. Each pedestrian group is assigned a list of possible vehicles they may drive in the car group data file. So for example, the Bronx pedestrian group is assigned vehicles like the Futo and the rundown Sabre, also known in the game files as the Sabre 2. Meanwhile, the Jersey pedestrian group is assigned vehicles like the Sabre GT and the Moonbeam. Different pedestrian groups can have some of the same vehicles assigned to them. A pedestrian from a pedestrian group can spawn on foot or in a vehicle taken from the assigned vehicles for their group. When they spawn with this vehicle, the vehicle gets added to the vehicle budget if it's not already there. The game will load new vehicle models every few minutes, so you won't always get the proper vehicles for an area as soon as you go there. For example, if you go from Hove Beach to East Hook, it's very likely vehicles that spawn in Hove Beach will continue to spawn, and you won't see dock vehicles immediately, which do spawn in East Hook, as it will take the game a few minutes to load new vehicle models. Unlike normal vehicles, gang vehicles seem to spawn immediately once you enter an area which they're meant to be in, probably because Rockstar didn't want gangs spawning in areas where they don't belong. Police cars spawn based on a percentage of how many other vehicles have spawned. It usually ranges from 3 to 6%, depending on the area of the map and time. So if the percentage of police cars is 6% in an area, you'll typically get a police vehicle after 17 other vehicles spawn. Vehicles that the player is currently driving or has driven recently can also spawn in traffic, even in areas where they're not meant to be. For example, the Infernus isn't meant to spawn in traffic in single player, but when you're driving one, you will start to see them in traffic. Okay, so what is the taxi bug? This is when the traffic in Liberty City is nothing but taxis, and this bug typically happens after a user installs vehicle mods. See, people don't usually just install one vehicle mod in GTA 4, they install multiple vehicle mods or vehicle packs. These mods contain vehicles which are higher quality than the default GTA 4 vehicles. For example, the model and texture for the vanilla Infernus is around 0.6 megabytes in total. If this is the average model and texture size for all of the other vehicles in GTA 4, the game can load about 66 unique vehicles before it reaches the 40 megabyte vehicle budget. But with this vehicle mod, for example, the model and texture of the Infernus has gone from 0.6 megabytes to 11.5 megabytes. So if you had vehicle mods installed with a similar file size, you'd be able to load a total of 3 vehicles before the vehicle budget was full. And when the vehicle budget is full, the game can't request any new vehicles to spawn as part of the population. Yet taxis seem to spawn fine, and this is why it's called the taxi bug. And while we do call this a taxi bug, there's other vehicles that can possibly spawn when the budget is full too. Most notable, gang vehicles are still able to spawn in gang areas. The Shafter is driven by the Russian mob in Hove Beach, and it still spawns when the budget is maxed. Remember when I said this? Unlike normal vehicles, gang vehicles seem to spawn immediately once you enter an area which they're meant to be in, probably because Rockstar didn't want gangs spawning in areas where they don't belong. So my guess is, gang vehicles are treated differently than normal pedestrian vehicles, which means they're forced to spawn regardless of whether the budget is full or not. Other vehicles that can still spawn include things like mission vehicles. Any vehicle the player drives, whether it's vehicle spawned by a mission or a vehicle forced to spawn through a trainer, will spawn if the player drives it. And lastly, police vehicles still spawn. As I explained earlier, they spawn based on a percentage of how many other vehicles have spawned. People have also reported that they get a police car bug instead of a taxi bug as well. It's possible this is caused by a mod altering the car group file, or maybe the game disabling taxis during a mission, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, the traffic is still mostly taxis when the budget is full, and while we all love the infamous yellow car, why is the game able to spawn these, yet almost nothing else when the budget is full? Well, I did some investigating to find out what was possibly going on. First, I went into the game's population cycle file. According to this file, the taxi pedestrian group spawns in most areas of the map. In places like Star Junction, this group has a spawn density of 100, which means you'll see a lot of taxis in that area in the vanilla game. I decided to change the spawn density for the taxi group to 0 in every location on the map. I then launched the game without any vehicle mods installed, and taxis were still spawning. Star Junction had less taxis than before, but they were still there. So then I set the spawn density of every pedestrian group in the population cycle to 0, meaning no vehicles or pedestrians should spawn at all. And guess what? taxis were still spawning. Funnily enough, the only other vehicles and pedestrians spawning were members of the Puerto Rican gang, possibly because they're the last normal group in the list on both the pedestrian group list and the car group list. So this tells us that taxis are forced to spawn, likely being used as a fallback if the game can't spawn any other vehicles. So I decided to try something else. What if I swapped the position of the taxi pedestrian group in the car group file with another group? The taxi pedestrian group is the 25th group in the car group file. So I swapped the position of it with the building site pedestrian group, which is just underneath it as the 26th pedestrian group. So now the taxi group was 26 and the building site group, which contains nothing but massive trucks, was 25. And after going in-game, vehicles that were meant to be taxis were suddenly massive trucks. If I broke the budget with a vehicle mod, suddenly it was no longer a taxi bug, but a truck bug. So my conclusion is, whatever pedestrian group is 25th in the car group file is forcibly spawned around most of the map. It's very likely Rockstar did this on purpose, as taxis are the only means of fast travel in the game, and it also makes a good fallback vehicle that fits in everywhere around the map when nothing else can spawn. So when the budget is limited, no other vehicles can spawn, but the game will continue to spawn taxis, which is the 25th car group by default. Lastly, you might be thinking, can't you just swap the taxi group with another group which has a variety of vehicles in it? This way you can still get different vehicles when the budget is maxed. While not an ideal solution, it can't be as bad as nothing but taxi spawning. So I did just that. And when the budget is maxed, I discovered the game only loads the first two vehicles in the list, which in this case was the Ballista and the Intruder. So this solution doesn't work. Okay, so can we fix the taxi bug? Surely if we could increase the vehicle budget, this issue would be solved. Well, in 2014, NT Authority was the first one to actually discover the vehicle and pedestrian budgets in GTA 4, and she quickly released a plugin called RIL Budgeted, which allowed users to alter these budgets so they could be bigger, avoiding the taxi bug altogether. Since then, RIL Budgeted has been directly integrated into Fusion Fix, allowing users to change the budget in the mod's configuration file. So you'd think increasing the budget using one of these methods would fix the issue, and it does. But it actually brings another problem. People noticed that increasing the vehicle budget would start to cause issues with audio. For example, I set the budget to 250 megabytes in this clip, but listen to this, PCJ.
Shit, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy. What are you doing?
Hey, it's better than time.
Hey, I want to drive, not hang.
Yep, there's no engine audio for the bike. This is what it should sound like. So now I had another issue to investigate. I actually asked NTA about this, and she suggested it might be caused by too many audio files being loaded because there's a higher variety of vehicles being spawned. So first I had to check, does increasing the vehicle budget actually increase the variety of vehicles in Liberty City? I didn't think it should, but I did a lot of testing and I can confirm it does. And it's actually a bit more broken than I think we all realized. So with a budget of 250 megabytes, if you load a save at your Hove Beach safe house and then head towards East Hook, almost immediately you will start to see vehicles from the dock's vehicle group spawning. Now you might think, oh that's correct, East Hook is a dock area, so vehicles from that group should spawn there. That is true, but that's not how it works in the vanilla game. Remember earlier when I said this? the game will load new vehicle models every few minutes, so you won't always get the proper vehicles for an area as soon as you go there. For example, if you go from Hove Beach to East Hook, it's very likely vehicles that spawn in Hove Beach will continue to spawn and you won't see dock vehicles immediately, which do spawn in East Hook, as it will take the game a few minutes to load new vehicle models. As we can see, that delay to load new vehicles seems to be completely gone when the budget is increased. But the big problem is, there is still a delay when it comes to unloading vehicles, even once you leave an area. So the only areas on the first island that spawn dock vehicles are East Hook and beneath the off-ramp of the Algonquin Bridge overpass, both of which are right next to each other. Yet once the dock vehicles spawned because I entered East Hook, they wouldn't stop spawning amongst all the other traffic in other areas for several minutes. I nearly drove all the way around the first island and the game was still loading vehicles from the dock vehicle group, while continuing to load new vehicles for the current area I was in. So if you increase the vehicle budget and start zooming around Liberty City, every time you enter a new area, the game will instantly load new vehicle models for that area, but it will also continue to load vehicles from the previous areas you were in for several minutes. This means the vehicle variety can get really high as you move around the map. If we set the budget back to the default 40 megabytes, you'll notice that dock vehicles don't spawn as soon as we enter East Hook, but rather it takes a few minutes instead. I tested this several times and the difference between the budget being increased versus vanilla was always clear. So I think it's safe to say increasing the budget increases vehicle variety, because it loads vehicle groups almost instantly for any area that you enter, but it doesn't unload them for several minutes. Anyway, is the increase in vehicle variety causing the audio bugs? To test this, I started a game with the vehicle budget set to 250 megabytes. I spawned a bike, and what do you know? The engine audio is still there. I then restarted the game, drove around for a few minutes to allow more traffic to spawn, and then I tried a bike again, and
What the? Son of a gun!
no engine audio. While on the bike, I then decided to use a trainer to delete all cars spawned in and listen to that. Engine audio comes back. To confirm this wasn't just some weird bug that only happens when you increase the vehicle budget, but instead happens due to too many variations of vehicles spawning, I did one last test. I set the budget back to normal, went to the airport and started to spawn a model each of different vehicles. When I spawned the 18th vehicle, this happened. Yep, no engine audio. I repeated this test several times and it was always the 18th vehicle which had no audio. To confirm it was due to vehicle variation and not just simply the number of vehicles spawned, I spawned 24 of the same vehicles on the runway, the Comet specifically, and engine audio still worked. So that's the audio bug, and that's why increasing the vehicle budget causes the audio bug. So is there any other solution to the taxi bug? Well, before we knew about the vehicle budget, there was mods to forcibly spawn traffic using scripts. Usually these mods were called traffic loaders. Unfortunately though, these mods simplified the traffic and population system of the game. Rockstar developed a population system which allowed them to spawn different groups at different spawn rates at 2-hour intervals and also have individual settings for weekdays and weekends. Most traffic loaders simply force a set list of vehicles to spawn all over the map. The latest traffic loader, called Simple Traffic Loader, does have options for where and when things spawn, but its default config is still very bare bones compared to the game's vanilla population cycle. There's currently no documentation for the mod either, so trying to customize it to be more like vanilla isn't really possible. As well as that, traffic loaders will still have the audio bug if you have too many vehicle varieties spawning. So let's summarize all the issues so far. You install a vehicle mod, which breaks the vehicle budget. This causes nothing but taxis to spawn. You increase the budget, the issue is fixed, but the increased budget causes more variations of vehicles to spawn. Different vehicles have different sounds, so the game has to load a lot of different audio files. Eventually, the game reaches some sort of audio limit for vehicles, and the sound for newer vehicles can't load until another vehicle despawns. Traffic loaders aren't a viable alternative because they simplify the game's population cycle, and they would still suffer from the audio bug regardless. So, at this point, fixing the taxi bug almost seems like a lost cause with the current solutions. But while doing all of this messing around, I realized something. The default vehicle budget is 40 megabytes, yet the size of vehicle.img, the archive which contains all of the game's vehicle models and textures, is just over 80 megabytes. So I started thinking, maybe we're making a mistake just blindly increasing the budget, hoping it will improve things. It has been typically recommended to set the budget to the exact size of your vehicle archive after you install vehicle mods. But that still increases vehicle variety, which results in the audio bug. So I decided to test something. What if I make the vehicle budget half of the size of my vehicle archive? So for example, here I haven't got any vehicle mods installed, so my vehicle archive is 81.6 megabytes. And I've increased the budget from the default 40 megabytes to 81.6 megabytes, the same size as the vehicle archive. From my testing, this definitely causes the vehicle variety to break, as I can find loads of dock vehicles as soon as I enter East Hook from Hove Beach. Again, we know this does not happen in the vanilla game with the default 40 megabyte vehicle budget, and we also now know the advice of setting the budget to the same size as your vehicle archive might not be as good of an idea as we previously thought. Now, what if I installed some vehicle mods, which doubles the size of the game's vehicle archive, bringing it from 81.4 megabytes to 164 megabytes, and then try with the same 81.6 megabyte vehicle budget, and it turns out this works. Vehicle variety seems normal. It takes a few minutes for new vehicle models to load, just like the vanilla game, which means you won't get the audio bug, and you also don't get the taxi bug which you would normally get with the default 40 megabyte vehicle budget. This is the solution we've basically been looking for, and all we had to do was set the budget to around half the size of your vehicle archive. So now I'll tell you exactly how you should install vehicle mods in GTA 4 and how to calculate what your budget should be. Please note that it's possible a better solution may be found because of this video at a later date. I will keep you updated in the description and pinned comment, so please check down below for any updates since this video went live before following my own solution. I will also cover any improved solutions in the future on the channel, so subscribe for possible updates as well. Also keep in mind, all of my testing has only been done with vehicle mods installed. It's possible this solution won't work if you replace pedestrian files or other game files, but I'm not entirely sure. So we'll start with installing vehicle mods. There's several ways to install vehicle mods in GTA 4. You can use something like Fusion Overloader, which allows you to overwrite which files the game uses, so it loads your modified files instead of the original game files, or you can directly replace the vehicle files inside the vehicles.img archive. There are also ways to add new vehicles to the game, but I've never done it and I don't think it's really a good idea anyway, so I won't be covering it. Now, for the sake of simplicity and to make calculating your required vehicle budget easier, I'm going to recommend simply replacing vehicle files inside the vehicle archive with Open4. It's a bit less convenient and requires making backups, but it's much easier to calculate the required budget size. First, I'll show you how to locate your vehicle archive. To do this, you need to download and install Open4, which I'll leave a link to in the description. After you've installed Open4, start it up and select GTA 4, then locate your GTA 4 folder, where GTA4.exe is located. Once you have Open4 open with your GTA 4 folder, click on Edit Mode next to the address bar and then click Yes to turn on Edit Mode. To find the base game vehicle archive, go to the PC folder, then go to the Models folder, then open the CD Images folder, and then open vehicles.img. This is where all the vehicle files are located for the base GTA 4 game. Each vehicle should have a model, which is a WFT file, and a texture dictionary, which is a WTD file. If you want to locate the vehicle archive for The Lost and Damned or The Ballad of Gay Tony, simply go to the episode folder you want. In this case, I'll choose The Ballad of Gay Tony. Then, just like the base game, go to the PC folder, then go to the Models folder, then open the CD Images folder, and then open vehicles.img. Keep in mind, the vehicle archives for the 2 episodes only contain the new vehicles that they've added in each episode. The episodes will use the base game's vehicle archive for vehicles which are in the base game and the episodes. Before you ever make changes to these files, you should back them up by copying and pasting the file, then renaming it so you know it's a backup of the original. So now that you know the location of your vehicle archives, here's how you install a vehicle mod. Typically, when you download a vehicle mod, you will usually get 2 files for a vehicle, a WFT file and a WTD file, a model and a texture. Some vehicle mods might only contain textures if the mod just updates the vanilla game model, but rarely a mod will contain just a model. So anyway, download whatever vehicle mod or mods you want. Then when you have your mods, use Open4 and simply drag and drop the mod files from the mods into the game's vehicle archive to replace the original game files. Once you've replaced the files, make sure you defrag the archive by clicking File, Defragmentation, and then click on Defragment when the defrag window opens. This is important because if you don't do this, you won't get the correct file size for your archive after replacing files. Make sure the files of the vehicle mod you're installing are actually named after one of the GTA 4 vehicles. Sometimes mod authors give the vehicle files generic names. There's no vehicle files called Lamborghini in GTA 4, so if you just drop these files into your vehicle archive, nothing will happen. Rename them to whatever vehicle you want to replace. You can find vehicle names in the vehicle archive in Open4. There might be additional steps depending on the vehicle mod you downloaded, such as changing the handling of the vehicle you replaced. So make sure you check the README file for each vehicle mod that you install. Now, you've installed your vehicle mods. How do you set your vehicle budget? Well, if you're playing patch 4 or 7 of GTA 4, you can increase the vehicle budget using RIL Budgeted. I don't play these versions of the game, and I explain why in my video regarding the different GTA 4 versions. For the complete edition of the game, you can increase the budget using Fusion Fix. If you don't have Fusion Fix installed, I have a video showing you how to install it. Once you have it installed, head to the plugins folder and open fusionfix.ini with any text editor, and then locate the vehicle budget value. So this value is 0 by default, which means the game will just use the vanilla vehicle budget of 40 megabytes. Once you set a value other than 0, the game will use that over the vanilla 40 megabytes. So if you are increasing the budget, make sure the value here is 40 megabytes or more, otherwise you'd actually be reducing the budget compared to vanilla. The vehicle budget value is read in bytes, so to change the vehicle budget to say 100 megabytes, you'd put 100 million here. That's 9 digits in total, or a 1 with 8 zeros afterwards. Now, the budget should be roughly half of the size of your base game vehicle archive. Don't think the episode vehicle archives need to be considered. Even though they add more vehicles to the game, they still manage to work fine with the 40 megabyte vehicle budget before that the base game used. So with my vehicle mods installed, my vehicle archive is 174 megabytes in total. So I just half 174, which is 87, and that's what my vehicle budget should be. So for my game, I changed the vehicle budget value to 87 million bytes, which would be 87 megabytes. So just a few things to be aware of. GTA 4 is still a 32-bit game, which means it can only use up to 4 gigabytes in memory, and the vanilla game is already really pushing that limitation, so memory is very tight. You cannot just install and replace every vehicle in the game with something stupidly high quality, and then expect the game to work well. Eventually the game will run out of memory and issues will occur. If you have more mods installed, such as higher quality pedestrians or higher quality map textures, they will also use up memory, reducing how many vehicle mods you can install. Unless we ever get a remaster of GTA 4, which is 64-bit, this isn't fixable. So here are some tips. When installing vehicle mods, make sure a single vehicle isn't more than roughly 3 megabytes in size at most. That includes both the vehicle model and texture. Vehicles any bigger can suck up memory very fast, and it will lead to memory problems. Don't allow your base game vehicle archive to become much more than around 200 megabytes. Anything above this will start to cause memory issues and the game will have problems. If you increase the budget and continue to get the taxi bug, increase your budget by 10 megabyte increments until it stops. If you increase the budget and get the audio bug, decrease your budget by 10 megabyte increments until it stops. If you get streaming issues, reduce how many mods you have in total. Anyway, if you watched this video hoping for some deep dive into the code of GTA 4, I do apologise. I'm not a programmer. This video was originally meant to just be a how to fix the taxi bug video, but when I realised it wasn't nearly so simple, I decided to look into the other issues caused by the current solutions out there, and thankfully came up with somewhat of a solution. Hopefully someone will find some of the information in this video useful, and maybe it'll lead to some improvements regarding this issue as well. I'd really like to thank Ash735 and NT Authority for their help with this video. I'll leave a link to their socials below. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing as it really helps the channel, and please give the video a like too if you found it entertaining or helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.